Well, yeah, no, honestly, the whistleblower allegation's a game changer. This is somebody in the IRS at a high level who apparently is willing to come forward to tell the Congress that during the investigation of Hunter Biden, there was obstruction, there was a thumb on the scale to the point that they feel they need to let the Congress know. If this is true, and I don't know yet, but if it's true, the Department of Justice yet again puts their thumb on the scale politically, then all hell is going to break out and they'll be held to pay. So to the White House, Senator Durbin said today that he's very interested, the Democrat chairman of the committee, to make sure that the whistleblower allegations are looked at seriously. I'm going to hold him to his word.
Yeah, and you're right. It is a game change because that person is going to be do some protections if, in fact, we call them a whistleblower as such. The New York Post, Senator, with some explosive reporting today. House Judiciary sources confirmed that in sworn testimony, former acting CIA Director Mike Morell admitted it was Joe Biden's potential campaign that prompted the infamous letter in which Morell and 50 fellow former intel officials falsely claimed that material from Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. This seems to deepen. Your take?
Yeah, it deepens greatly. So what happened here is that 50 pretty well-known and most of them pretty well-respected intelligence officials put their name on a letter right before the election saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was most likely Russian disinformation. So what I want to know who contacted them to sign the letter. I want to know who had briefed them about why they thought the laptop was Russian disinformation. Does it go back to the Biden campaign? Who are these people? Was Tony Blinken involved, the now Secretary of State?
The Post says so. And you so rightfully bring up Tony Blinken because at the time he was an advisor to the campaign. That, of course, is not who he is now. He's the Secretary of State, as you just mentioned. So was he the one who urgently phoned Morell in October 2020 to suggest the laptop was a Russian plant? From the New York Post, the answer would be yes from their reporting. Senator.
Well, I don't know. I'm not relying on newspaper reports. I'm going to ask myself. I'm writing a letter. Jim Jordan's done this, but I'm going to send a letter from the Senate asking all 51, why did you sign the letter? Who did you talk to? What information were you given and by whom to make you sign this letter? Because I think it did affect the election. So if this is linked back to the Biden campaign, if they made an effort to manipulate intelligence officials to sign a letter basically misleading the public about the Hunter Biden laptop right before the election, that is a major, major political event. And I want to know why they signed the letter, who told you about the theory it was Russian disinformation. And we're going to get to the bottom of it because it's clear to me that these people were either in on it or they were misled. And I believe most of them were probably misled, but by who? And they were clearly used politically. Who used these intelligence experts to try to affect the outcome of the 2020 election?
And we do want to be extra cautious here. I hear it in your voice as you make news on this very program with this. Would it go all the way up to the presidency is the big question, and we don't know the answer to that. What's at stake?
I think a lot's at stake. I think anybody who tries to get intelligence officials to sign a letter that will affect potentially the outcome of an election in October needs to be held accountable, because now we know the Hunter Biden laptop is actually genuine. But who was it that signed up these 50-plus people to tell the American people you shouldn't believe this or be cautious of it? That, to me, is electoral interference. That, to me, is something that can't be tolerated, and those involved need to pay a price.
Well, and I'm so curious, too, when you find out who that person is, that person would have to be so powerful with so much push to get 50 people to do one thing. I mean, it's not like there was 5. There were 50 of them. All right, let's get to this. The gloves are off between House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden in the debt ceiling fight at this point. The chamber's top Republican and the White House trading barbs just yesterday as, well, experts are saying a default could loom. It got pretty chippy. Let's watch.
Biden is skipping town to deliver a speech in Maryland rather than sitting down to address the debt ceiling. Now, Senator Schumer, he's just missing in action. Just last month, he's approved March as Maine's Maple Syrup Month. Talk about taking on big issues.
Here's what's really dangerous. MAGA Republicans in Congress are threatening to default on the national debt unless I agree to all these wacko notions.
Speaker McCarthy is engaging in dangerous economic hostage-taking. Why would this speaker, like no other speaker has done this before, threaten default?
Biden's demanding that the GOP agree to raise the debt limit with no talks on spending cuts. Of course, they would love that. Yes.
Right.
Karl Rove points out that Senator Biden voted against doing just that 10 times when he was senator. He also reminds us that Senator Biden claimed to champion compromise. Yeah, I don't think we've seen much of that. He's a different fellow. Senator.
Well, so here's what's going to happen. I am fully in Kevin McCarthy's camp of trying to get some fiscal controls to raise the debt ceiling. Kevin is doing the right thing. I bet you if you go back and look when the president was of one party and a Congress was of the other party, you never raised the debt ceiling without getting some compromise. So when President Biden says that it's normal to have a clean debt ceiling increase, that's not true. What's normal is for the parties to work together to raise the debt ceiling. And I promise you this, I hope Kevin can pass something in the House. I think he's doing a great job. There will be no debt ceiling increase with 60 votes in the Senate that will be clean. You know, I tend to vote for bipartisan deals, but I will not vote to increase the debt ceiling unless we address some of the factors leading to this enormous debt. So at the end of the day, we're going to get an outcome here. Let it start in the House, but I want to let you know right now, I don't see 10 Republicans who are going to sit down with the Democrats and raise the debt ceiling without addressing some issues around the debt itself.
Well, I got to tell you, Senator, and you already know this, you know when you make news, it has been House Speaker Kevin McCarthy out there walking on his own, and Democrats have painted him as somebody who's willing to do, anything just to let default. And what you're saying now is no. That is not what's happening. He actually is trying fiscal controls, as you said, to raise the debt ceiling. There's no talk about not raising it, but what you're saying is it's not going to be a clean bill. You got to do something to it. Last quick word.
Yeah, well, what Kevin's doing is what everybody has done in his position in the past, including Biden, including Pelosi. So I want you to understand that what Kevin McCarthy is doing is not unusual. It is actually normal, and it needs to be done. I'm standing with Kevin, and when the House acts and whatever comes over to the Senate, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling without getting some debt reforms in the ceiling in the Senate with my vote. And I don't think there are 10 Republicans who would work with Schumer to raise the debt ceiling without addressing the fundamentals of the debt itself. That's a very reasonable position to take.
Yeah, and historically, as you say, that it's more than reasonable. There's precedent for it. I'm standing with Kevin. News of the day. Senator Graham, always great to have you in focus. Thank you for getting us started.
Thank you.